Hi everyone, in this lecture we are going to talk about Flex. Flex is, first off, let's talk about HTML. In HTML we have our UL and we have our LIs. In CSS we have all the repetitive code or styling. Now Flex property is actually a shorthand for property for Flex Grow, Flex Shrink, and Flex Spaces. Now the default value, you need to keep this in mind that Flex has a default value. Now don't confuse this with display flex. This is a child or a flex item property. This is not a container property. So the default value is going to be the default value for Flex Grow, Flex Shrink, and Flex Basis. So what is the default value for Flex Grow? It is 0. And then next we have Flex Shrink. What is the default value? It is 1. And then we have Flex Basis, which is auto. So this is the default value for Flex. Now let's grab the first child and I'm going to specify a flex of, sometimes you might see this, flex of 2. So when you specify flex 2, it means that the Flex Grow value is set to 2. The value of the Flex Shrink will be 0 and the value of the Flex Basis is going to be 0%. Now, if you want the value of the Flex Shrink and Flex Basis to be applied intelligently by CSS Flexbox, the only thing that, and you only require Flex Grow, it is better to use it using Flex property because the other two values will be set intelligently and smartly by CSS itself. So if we save it, you can see that because it is Flex Grow 2, it grows to take the entire available space. Now in this, what do we have? We have a Flex Shrink of 0. So this we have for Flex Shrink, For Flex Shrink we have 0. And for Flex Basis, we have 0%. Now, when a flex item has a Flex Shrink value of 0, what does that mean? Let's go ahead and let's make this window smaller. And you can see that what it actually does is it is going to shrink as any other normal element. Now, the reason that it shrinks is because the value of the Flex Basis is 0%. Theoretically, if any flex item has a value has a Flex Shrink value of 0, it is not going to shrink. Keep that in mind. But because this is a percentage, that's why it's going to shrink. Now I'm going to provide you with another example as well. Let's grab last child, and I'm going to say flex. This time I'm going to provide 3 for Flex Grow, 0 for Flex Shrink, and 150 for Flex Basis. So now let's make this bigger. So you can see because it says Flex Grow 3, it has grown more than the Flex Item 1. Now let's make this smaller and let's make this smaller. So you can see that this is actually, let's take a look at the bottom of the page, and it actually shrinks. Let's see how much it is going to shrink. So we are going to check the width dynamically in the Computer tab. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that as well. Let's grab our element. So padding top, we need to specify that. We need to grab it from here. So where is the width? Where is it? Come on, buddy. W word width. Here it is. So now the width is 249. Let's make it smaller. This is 217, 200, 180, 169, 150, and then it is not going to go less than 150. The reason that it is not going to go, and we are going to see that there is a horizontal scroll bar at the bottom of the page. The reason that it is not going to go below 150 is because Flex Shrink is 0. It's never going to go less than the width of the item, that the width for the grid item that we have specified through Flex Basis. Now, what happens if we change the value of Flex Shrink from 0 to 1? Let's take a look at this one. So this value is 1. and we are going to take a look at the width dynamically. So it's 500 because it's Flex Grow 3. And we are going to go to, let's say, so the width was 150. Let's see if we can, there we go. We can go to 143. And now it's going to be a little bit more dynamic. That's why there is no scroll bar at the bottom of the page. And when the width of the page gets smaller than the width of the content, the minimum width required for the content, that's when we see a scroll bar. I mean, usually what we do is we don't go below 300 or 320 because smartphones these days, they're usually at least 300 pixels of width. I mean, we used to have smaller size device sizes. So if I go to a Galaxy Note 20, it's 412. If I go to Galaxy S20, it is 360. If I go to iPad, this is large. iPhone 11, 375. iPhone 12 and 13, 390. iPhone 12, 13 Pro Max, popular, that is 428. Even Kindle Fire, it's HDX Linux, it is 800. Maybe that's a tablet, I'm not familiar with it. This is 375. So no matter which of these latest devices you use, or you check any device from here, in case as your device does not appear in the list, you can add it from here as well. So Galaxy Note 3 S5, which is a very outdated phone, we could actually take a look at that. So Galaxy S5 Android 5.0. Even this S5, which is a pretty outdated phone, it is 360. So let's take a look at some smaller size phones. Pixel 5, Nokia Nexus, iPhone 5 SE. Let's take a look at that. You can see the width of the iPhone 5 is 320. iPhone 5. I mean, you might have forgotten about iPhone 5. Even the width of iPhone 5 is 320. I'm just going to do one more. I just want to make sure that it is pretty outdated. I'm not sure about these phones. Lumia, Windows Phone. Let's take a look at that. This is also 360. So what you have to think of is that you need to provide a maximum size for your layout of the website, and you need to provide a minimum size for the layout. Maximum size will handle TVs, smart TVs, and large screen devices, and small size is going to handle phones which are really, really small. So you don't need to worry when it comes to phones, because you don't have to really go ahead and design a website for any kind of device that is less than 300. That device is pretty much outdated, and it is going to have an outdated software, and your website is not going to look good on that device anyway, because there are a ton of new CSS features which might not be supported by that device. So with this, our lecture comes to an end. See you in the next one.